I'm the best there is at what I do. But what I do best isn't very nice.
James Howlett, aka Logan, aka Wolverine, aka Peanut.
Hi, Peanut.
Has been called the best there is. But what does that mean? And what kind of deck was I able to put together for X-Men's most iconic hero?
You know nothing, little man.
Hello and welcome back to Legends Explained. I'm Courier6 of the Kaladesh Express, your #1 source for Universes Beyond. And today we'll be looking at Wolverine, the best there is. This is a new legend that dropped recently with the Marvel Secret Lair crossover that was a little contentious to say the least. But I'm pretty excited to build this character regardless of whether I got it or not. Spoiler alert, I did not actually get to pick this one up, but I really like the card, I really like the character, so let's go ahead and dive into his lore and then build a deck based around that to the best of our ability. I did add some restrictions to myself because my recent videos have been very equipment focused, and I'll also be building another equipment focused deck soon. I decided for this video I am not using any equipment bar like Swiftfoot boots. I wanted this to be a +1/+1 counter deck and not so much a Voltron deck in the traditional sense, more just a combat trick, let's make things big and do some attacking kind of deck. So no Colossus Hammer and no Colossification in this deck. But this intro's taken long enough, so let's jump into Wolverine's lore.
Ain't ready for the big leagues yet, kid. Back to the minors with you.
James Howlett was a mutant born in 1832 near Alberta, Canada, and he grew up as a regular Canadian boy.
Jacob's got 4.44 damage, Esau's got 4.68 damage.
Until some real days of our lives shit began happening with his parents and the family groundskeeper.
He wasn't your father. Son.
He then ran away from home with his childhood friend until he accidentally killed her, and then later was captured and forced to work in a circus. He then escapes, goes to live with some native Canadians, where he proceeds to meet another woman who promptly gets killed again, and then is forced to join the Canadian Army because of this little thing you might not have heard of called World War I. Fun fact, Wolverine stormed the beaches of Normandy. Apparently. He later fights alongside Captain America in World War II and then does some work for CIA. So basically, being alive for like 200 years, Wolverine has done it all. And as he has a lot of lore to cover, I mean, his origin's been retconned at least 5 times. I'm going to recommend some comics, which is not something I normally do in these videos, but if you want to get into really who he is and not just this little bit of a summary I'm going to give, these are the comics I'd recommend. First, I'd start with 2001's Origin Run, and then I'd go to 2006's Wolverine Origins, which are not the same comic. I understand they're named very similarly, but they're not. And then I would check out 2005's House of M. These comics are a really good starting point to understand the character, his motivations and origins, or you could skip all that lame shit and check out X-Men Origins Wolverine starring Will.i.am.
We hunted our own kind, Logan. There's a special place in hell for the things we did.
Is that acting? And Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
You don't have to do this.
It is a beloved classic, and I think all X-Men fans would agree this is the definitive origin story for Wolverine. But looking at Wolverine in a more contemporary sense, you can find him working alongside his ex-lover Storm as part of the X-Men. He also does work with the Avengers very regularly, and you can find him working undercover in Criminal Land, Madripoor, under his alter ego Patch, a disguise Wolverine likes to put on, but does nothing to hide his distinctive hair, face, or facial hair. It's quite bizarre, actually. And that is Wolverine's lore in the smallest of nutshells. We are really cramming that one together because, again, there is infinite amounts of lore you can talk about with Wolverine, from his time as part of Weapon X program, where he got his adamantium skeleton, to his time facing off against Sabretooth, how Sabretooth just likes to bully him every year for his birthday. There is a lot to talk about with Wolverine. Anyway, I'm not going to go as deep on the lore about Wolverine as I've done for other characters because, come on, you guys know who Wolverine is. But now that we know a little bit about Wolverine, let's get into a deck list that I made for the guy, and you can write your own stories based on the amazing gameplay that you'll have with this deck. So corny. Alright, let's get into it. So we'll start off with our commander, Wolverine, best there is. Wolverine is a legendary creature, mutant berserker hero for 1, a red and a green. He's a 2/2, and he has the ability Unrivaled Lethality. Double all damage that Wolverine would deal, And then he has, at the beginning of each upkeep, if Wolverine dealt damage to another creature this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on him. He also has 1 and a green, Regenerate Wolverine, which is one of Wolverine's main abilities in the comics and show. He regenerates really quickly. He also has this Berserker Rage, which is showing off really well with his unrivaled lethality ability, where he just gets madder, he gets stronger, he starts dealing a lot of damage. He's a really cool card, and this is a really good representation of the character. Alright, going on to the deck, we've got several categories, and we're going to start off with the +1/+1 counter synergies for Wolverine. Starting off with Adamantium Body Tank, aka the Ozolith. This came with the Wolverine Secret Lair. The Ozolith is great. It's one of the best +1/+1 cards in the game. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put it on the Ozolith, and then at the beginning of combat, you can put any counters that are on the Ozolith onto a creature. So in the rare chance Wolverine does die, we're not losing all the counters we accumulate on him if we have this on board. Great card. Then we have Arnie Slays the Troll. So this is a saga that allows us to fight things, which is removal. It adds mana and counters, and then it gains us back some life, because we're going to be doing a lot of swinging. We might be open. That life gain will be relevant down the line. Then we got Beastie Beatdown. This is another removal piece. Fighting is going to be our main source of removal in this deck, because Wolverine can regenerate himself, so why not? And it also puts counters on our creature, which is pretty great. Then we got Branching Evolution. It doubles the counters that would be put on our creatures if counters are put on there. It's great. It's like Hardened Scales, except it costs a little more. And it literally doubles. Hardened Scales does not double. It adds a counter. So that's the difference. Bristly Bill. Whenever land enters, we're going to put a counter on target creature, which is going to be Wolverine. He also has an activated ability to double the counters on Wolverine or any other creature, so that's pretty great. Doubling Season. I mean, Doubling Season, we want to put more counters on our guy. It literally doubles it, and in the rare chance we make some tokens, it also will double those too, which is not bad. Evolution Sage. Land enters, proliferate, just increase those counters. Fight Rigging is a pet card of mine, but it also is super on flavor for Wolverine, because Wolverine in X-Men #1, I want to say, Wolverine is shown at the beginning in a boxing ring in Canada, doing a little fighting, and it has ridiculous sound effects. Nope, I was wrong. It's Origins again. Please don't unsubscribe. But yeah, this is super on flavor. Anyway, it puts counters on our creature at the beginning of combat, and then it also has Hideaway 5s. We can look at 5 cards in our deck, put a card underneath it, and then when Wolverine gets big enough, we get to play a card for free, which is pretty cool. Forgotten Ancient. Whenever a player casts a spell, put a counter on it, and then move those counters at the beginning of combat onto another creature, aka Wolverine. Just another way to increase those counters on him really quickly. Grumgully the Generous. Wolverine is not a human at all. I mean, I know he is a mutant, and but like, he is a human mutant, so I just found that interesting. He's not actually a human type line in this game, but yeah, because of that, we can play Grumgully and just put counters on him when he enters. It's a little bit of a synergy. It's not super important here. Helena and Elena, partners, and they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Helena and Elena allow you to put counters on another creature at the beginning of combat, and give creatures haste, which is super relevant. Want to get attacking Wolverine as soon as possible. Hardened Scales. It lets us put extra counters on our creature. It's also a 1-drop, so we can get this out and set up our engines early. Innkeeper's Talent puts counters at the beginning of combat. We're going to be seeing a lot of this in this deck. We just want to put counters on Wolverine as quickly as possible. It also, as it levels up, gives us more protection, and then it allows us to double counters, which is very nice. Invigorating Surge. Put a counter, double those counters. Very simple, very good. Minskin Boo is a multi-use card. If Wolverine's already big enough, we'll create Boo and put counters on Boo instead of Wolverine, and then we can sacrifice Boo later and then draw a bunch of cards. This card is really good. Rite of Passage, another Wolverine Secret Lair card. Whenever we attack Wolverine, we'll start putting counters on Wolverine. It's pretty great. I also love this X-23 art in this. I think it is absolutely phenomenal. New card from Jumpstart Foundation, Scythecat Cub. It's kind of like Bristly Bill, wherever our land enters, will put a counter on a creature we control. But if it's a second time, we also double the counters on the creatures we control. So that's pretty good. We do run some ramp in here that is just putting lands onto the battlefield, which will be useful. Stocking Pantry is another early game card we can play early and then use to set up later, so we can draw some cards, keep ourselves in the game late game. Tribute to the World Tree is a fantastic card. Wolverine starts off naturally at 2 power, so when he enters, he'll immediately be at 4 power, which is fantastic. And then any other creature we play that's bigger than that will allow us to draw a card. So a little bit of card advantage. Kind of hard to play with a triple green pips, but Still a very good card. Tyrant Sanctum allows us to put a counter on Wolverine and then eventually make him a god, which is really good. Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider. This is one of the more expensive cards in the deck. Aside from Wolverine himself, of course, who is currently going for $70 because scalpers are actual pieces of shit. Vorinclex is doubling season. It's great. It also affects our opponents by putting half as many things instead of doubling them, which is nice. Also, it's just a big threat with trample and haste. And then our final 1/1 counter synergy is Wakandan Skyscraper, aka Karn's Bastion. This is from the Black Panther Secret Lair, but also it's just Karn's Bastion. It's a normal land, but you can pay for, tap it, and proliferate, which is relevant. All right, and we are on to our next section, our card advantage section. This one starts off with Balaged Recovery, which is both a land and also it allows us to Eternal Witness something from our graveyard back to our hand, which is great. Domri Raid allows us to look at the top card of our library. If it's a creature, reveal it, put it in our hand, which is fantastic. It also allows us to fight, which is removal. And then also if we do get to ultimate it, we probably just win the game. It makes Wolverine the biggest threat. Then we have Storm's Will, aka Justice Will. This is from the Storm Secret Lair that you can't buy. It's Jessica's Will. We all know what Jessica's Will does. It's fantastic. It's more card advantage for us, really. And then Sylvan Library, because Sylvan Library, I mean, like, we're in green, why not? Then we have the combat manipulation category. So this one starts off with Berserk. Came from Wolverine Secret Lair. This is one of its first functional reprints in a very long time, so I'm really happy to see it here. But yeah, it's going to make our Wolverine real big. It's also Berserk. It's super on flavor. Also, the art is fantastic. God, I love it. I miss this orange suit. Honestly, I think this is the best Wolverine suit, probably. Then we have Embiggen, a card from Infinity. It allows Wolverine to get +5/+5 when we end up using it because it gives +1/+1 for each super type, card type, and subtype. And Wolverine has 5 of those. So this is a 1 mana +5/+5, which is pretty cool. Unless Wolverine gets turned into a brushwag, then this card does nothing. Fiery Emancipation. If a sorcery will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead. This makes Wolverine the biggest of threats. As soon as it hits the board, we start doubling players and taking them out the game. Then we have Karlach, Fury of Avernus, my waifu. It's going to give us extra combat steps, which is something I wanted to lean into more when I was building this deck, but I decided against it. I kind of felt like the extra combat things has been done. I know it's pretty on theme for Wolverine, but let's make the boy big, you know? He's such a little guy. I thought, let's make him bigger this time. That'll be the focus. But yeah, we want a little bit of extra combat, and can't miss an opportunity to throw Mommy Karlach in the deck. Then we have Legolas's Quick Reflexes. It's protection, it's split second, and it also is removal all in one. It's very good. Naith of the Dire Hunt is pretty cool. It allows us to draw some cards, so it's a little bit of card advantage, but it also makes so our opponents have to block our Wolverine during combat, which is really good. Then we have Raised by Giants, which is not an aura, so I did not break my rule, but it is just base power toughness 10/10 for Wolverine just on the face of it before we add any other multipliers, so he's immediately hitting for 20 damage, which is great. Didn't want to add too many of these effects into here, but like, come on, it's Raised by Giants. Rose Passage just, makes a creature unblockable, which is very useful. Teamer Battle Rage gives double strike and then also gives trample if Wolverine's big enough, and he typically will be. Unnatural Growth, it just lets us double our power at the beginning of combat. That's all it does. It's very good. And then Witch's Clinic, just to give us a little bit more protection, just a little more life, because we will be, again, swinging out quite a bit. We'll be kind of open, and this will pad our life total just a little bit. Or sometimes a lot, because Wolverine regularly will be swinging for 20, 30 damage. Then we have our Haste and Trample enablers, just our raw Haste and Trample enablers. Starting with Anger, just want to get this to the graveyard and give Wolverine Haste. We want to get him going. Same thing with Arena of Glory, it's just in here. Give Wolverine Haste, pay the mana, get him going. Garrick's Uprising gives creatures trample, and it also allows us to draw some cards, which is not bad. Gimli's Reckless Might gives creatures haste, and also is just straight removal, because once our Wolverine gets big enough, it'll take out opponent's creatures. Keswick Wolfrun, here to buff our Wolverine and other creatures, but also gives them trample. It's really good. Monstrous Rage is the one combat trick that gives trample that's kind of cheating. It puts an aura onto him, but it itself is not an aura. We're not really play anything else like it, so I think this one deserves a pass. It also could go into the combat trick role, but with the new combat rules, it maybe doesn't work as well. I don't know, but it gives trample, which is what it's here for. Rhythm of the Wild, straight from the Wolverine Secret Lair. Good reprint, solid, art, love it. Love seeing him with the Wolverines. It's very cute. Gives Riot, which gives Haste. Scarred Rage Pits gives a creature trample. Also slightly boastful Wolverine, which is nice. And then the other card that breaks the rule, it's Swiftfoot Boots. I'm not running it because I like to run equipment. I'm running it because it's Swiftfoot Boots and we're in Commander, and this is one of the Commander staples. And we can't forget about Xenagos, God of Revels. Gives a creature haste and also doubles their power at the beginning of combat. Alright, run a few protection spells, starting with Blossoming Defense. Gives target creature hexproof and +2/+2, which can be used as a combat trick or can be used as protection. Heroic Intervention from the Black Panther Secret Lair. Awesome art, absolutely stunning. It hexproof and indestructible, fantastic. Snakeskin Veil puts a cantrip on our creature and then gives it hexproof, so it also feels into our counter synergies a little bit. Also, there is not a price for this one apparently. Interesting. Tamio's Safekeeping, hexproof, indestructible, gain some life, it's protection. That's this whole category. Then we got Ramp, and we're running quite a bit of it because we want to be able to feed into Wolverine's regenerate ability as often as possible. So we'll start with the European Swallow. Is Birds of Paradise. It's Ramp. Atalon Jackal, it gives trample haste, and then it also ramps out more lands, which is relevant. We have creatures that care about lands or landfall triggers. Biophagus is another pet card of mine. I love putting this into decks. It is a mana dork, but it also allows creatures to come in with an additional counter, so it just makes Wolverine bigger right out the jump. Arcane Signet. This is the unobtainable Secret Lair promo. If I see you running this, you bought this secondhand, bro. Farseek is Farseek, just good solid stuff. Goblin and Archomancer is good. Most of our things can take advantage of this reduction in mana cost. Gruul Signet, Nature's Lore, cool Black Panther bonus card. Super Nature's Lore, if you haven't seen it, there you go. Sorry, the quality's not so good, but it's the one that Moxfield has. Ruby Daring Tracker. It's very good. It gets bigger, and it's also a rock. Soul Ring from the Iron Man Secret Lair. Talisman of Impulse. Felwar Stone. And we want a shrubbery. All right, then we got a few pieces of removal, starting with Beast Within. I think this is thematically fantastic. I mean, Beast Within, it's Wolverine. Come on. We got Chaos Warp, because of course we do. Jondra's Ignition. I'm so happy to have this Miku art and be able to play this alongside Wolverine. This is the thing people have always feared, like, oh my god, it's the Warhammer next to Fallout, which is the next to the Hatsune Miku. It's some action figures, the game. I don't know. The Fortnitification is real, y'all. I love it. Stump is a fight card, but it also happens to be a land, so gives us a little more flexibility here. Waltz of Rage is a new card from Duskmourn House of Horrors. It's a fight card, but it also is a little bit of card advantage. Then we got lands as per normal. I don't really go over lands unless there's something that particularly needs to be talked about, but I mean, this is a relatively normal Gruul land base, and that's gonna about do it for our Wolverine deck tech. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was informational. This is a super functional deck. I've tested it many times myself, and it's so much fun to play. I highly advise you giving it a shot. I know I use a lot of Secret Lair arts in this deck tech and a lot of alt arts, but this deck honestly should be relatively cheap. I mean, you can cut Vorinclex if you really need to, and you could cut the Ozolith because they're nice things to have, but they don't actually play into the actual final game plan of it. They're more extra, you know. The Doubling Season just got a reprint, so that should be relatively cheap. So this deck should be on the cheaper end of the decks I've made on the channel, but looking at it now, it is $880 with all the fancy foils and variants I have. So maybe drop this into Card Kingdom or TCG Player and use their lowest price tool and see what you get.